بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. I hope you're doing well. I want to share with you a khitta, a kind of personal syllabus that I want to follow inshallah to get better at Nahw and get me involved in a little bit of more of the sciences of Lugha Arabiya. Nahw is one amongst many of the various sciences of Lugha Arabiya, but I wanted to, really understand Nahw well before I move on to the other sciences, such as Sarf, such as Arud. I know absolutely nothing regarding Arud. I'm a complete jahil. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give me ilm. I really want to study it and understand it. Also the history and the tarikh of the adab and going into a little bit more adab. Inshallah, I have some books in that regard. I want to share that with you afterward in another video, inshallah. But here I want to go over a potential khitta for myself, meaning a plan and a syllabus. And if anyone else wants to follow that, they may do so, inshallah. This obviously requires an individual to have studied Nahw before and kind of understand Arabic. Like if you want to study these kitabs by yourself, you have to kind of understand Arabic. What would be the point of studying these books after one has already studied Nahw? For instance, myself in another video, I have discussed what I studied at Darul Ulum Zakaria and the whole khitta they have, the syllabus they have for Arabic over there, which is alhamdulillah kafi for me to understand a majority of things. Like I can pretty much read any book. I don't want to say any book, but like most kitabs in Arabic and understand it. In terms of Arabic, I can understand. But the reason for this is to get a deeper understanding of the mechanics of Nahw, so that when we study tafsir, we can really understand every single word, how it correlates, the position of every word, and understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's kalam more daqiq and intricately, and be able to critique, and not the kalam of Allah, obviously we don't critique Allah ta'ala's kalam, but like being able to critique different works and stuff like that, getting into the adab, looking at the mu'allaqat, looking at the different ash'ar of the Arab, and kind of understanding it from that perspective. Anyway, without further ado, I want to share these works inshallah. You do need to know some Arabic if you want to study it on your own. And if you have a teacher teaching you these things, then alhamdulillah, that's great. The first book I have, very famous, al-Tuḥfat al-Saniyyah. This is kind of covered. I haven't done a video on how I cover my books, but as you can see, it's a book cover. I really like covering books. I can't obviously cover all my books. Let me turn off my screen here so you can see that better. There we go. al-Tuḥfat al-Saniyyah. So this is a sharh on the matan of Ajurumiyya, or Ajurumiyya, however you want to pronounce that. And the author of the sharh and commentary is Shaykh Muhammad Muhyiddin Abdul Hamid rahimahullah ta'ala, who was a great scholar in various funun, but he has a lot of works in Arabic, and you'll see that here, this trend here. So this is a really good book. It might not even be the best absolute intro. Maybe you study something even more simpler. If you speak the English language, then perhaps Tashilu Nahw. That is in English. You can study that cover to cover, do some tamareen and exercises with the ustadh. But again, I'm talking about someone who's already studied, kind of like a dars nizami kind of thing. We study Hidayatu Nahw, we study, some places study Kafiya. We didn't study Kafiya, we studied Qawa'id al-Lughat al-Arabiya. So for someone of that caliber, to study this would be a good refresher. And it's pretty much, they already know everything in here, but there's some good as'ilas, questions, very beautifully laid out the way the matan is. You can see here that the layout is just beautiful. After every chapter he has some tamreens and exercises. So this is a great workbook, and it gets a student, gets their feet wet in Nahw, and it covers all the necessary abwab. So definitely a higher level beginner book. So not intermediate, I would think, but higher level on the beginner side. So I've actually taught this book cover to cover to a group of students. So I'm done studying it. I mean, obviously I could benefit more by reading it again, but I've taught this to a group of students. The second book on this khitta and this proposed syllabus is one that I've talked about before in another video. Sharḥ Qaṭr al-Nadā wa al-Sadā of al-Imam al-Shaykh Ibn Hisham al-Ansari rahimahullah, one of the greatest shuyukh, and you'll see his books recurring here. So this book I'm currently teaching, alhamdulillah, it's an excellent book, especially with the hawashi of Shaykh Muhammad Abdul Hamid, Muhammad Muhyiddin Abdul Hamid, afwan. His hawashi, excellent, and he goes into details and he shows you the i'rab and how the shawahid, meaning the ash'ar, etc., are used. And this taba'a is excellent as well. Just look at the hawashi. That one line on the top is the actual book, and the hawashi, the explanation, is just extensive. So the second book would be Sharḥ Qaṭr al-Nadā wa al-Sadā. Thereafter, moving on to a book that I have not studied. I'm currently reading this book, inshallah, and once I finish, I'll move on. But then moving on to the Alfiya of al-Imam Ibn Malik, and starting off with Sharḥ Ibn Aqīl. Sharḥ Ibn Aqīl. And I read that his name is Ibn Aqīl because he's related to Aqīl bin Abi Talib, the older brother of Ali bin Abi Talib. So he comes from that lineage, and that is why he is named Ibn Aqīl. This sharh is highly praised by ulama because it is extensive when it comes to Alfiyat ibn Malik. However, it's mutawassit, meaning it gives you a lot of information, but it doesn't go over the top, and it's a good starter book for the explanation of Alfiyat ibn Malik. And if you've already read the previous two works, you would be able to understand this, at least Sharḥ Ibn Aqīl. From whatever I've read so far, it's not difficult, it's tedious, there's a lot of info to recall and retain, but totally clear and understandable. Again, with the hawashi of Shaykh Muhammad Abdul Hamid, Muhammad Muhyiddin Abdul Hamid. I'm sorry, I keep getting the name mixed up. This edition particularly has beautiful charts. And one thing I love about Shaykh Muhammad Muhyiddin's ta'liq in his hawashi is he does the i'rab of every shi'r, every line of Alfiyat ibn Malik. He is going over it and he gives you the i'rab. Let me give you an example. So if you go to the very first page, so here he has alamatul ism, and in red, in bold, you have the shi'r, the line of poetry from Alfiyat ibn Malik. Here, in the, let's see here, Hashia number 1, he gives you the i'rab. This entire Hashia is the i'rab of the shi'r. So why do you need to know the i'rab of the shi'r? To better understand what the poem is actually saying. He breaks it down. So Ibn Aqīl, he doesn't break down the poem as like juz by juz, every single piece of the poem, and saying what it is. Is this halatu rafa', or is this hal, or what it is? Sometimes you get confused by the shi'r because it's a poem, so it's written in a way that's not very, it's a little bit hard for a person to understand. So he breaks it down in a way you can fully understand. And then Sharḥ Ibn Aqīl goes into the actual details and the masail of Nahw. And so this is the next book I would suggest for myself in this potential khitta. Thereafter, I have 2 more books. We have, or I could say 3 more. I just adjusted it right now. So it's the 3 more and potential 4 more, astaghfirullah. May Allah forgive me for that. Awḍaḥ al-Masālik. Awḍaḥ al-Masālik ila Alfiyat ibn Malik. So I saw that Shaykh Muhammad Abdul Hamid, he has a hashia on this as well, but I could not find it. This is another Shaykh's hashia, Dr. Barakat Yusuf Habboud, Hafidhahullah. And it is that the hawashi are extensive. Like, let me give you an example here. Look at the hashia there. That's going into detail regarding the poems, etc. So it's still very good, but once I'm used to Shaykh Muhammad Muhyiddin, I really want that version of Awḍaḥ al-Masālik. If anyone knows where I can purchase that, please let me know. I could not find where that is being sold. So Awḍaḥ al-Masālik is al-Imam Ibn Hisham, who we've already talked about, the author of Sharḥ Qaṭr al-Nadā. it's his Sharh on the Alfiya of Ibn Malik. So two different, Sharḥ Ibn Aqīl is a different Sharh on Alfiya Ibn Malik. This is a different Sharh on Alfiya Ibn Malik. And this is also 2 volumes. And so was Sharḥ Ibn Aqīl, the versions that I have. So this is more detailed. And of course, Ibn Hisham al-Ansari, he's a whole madrasa to himself. Thereafter, so now the adjustment that I made. This was supposed to be the last book. Let me get these 2 other books here. These 2 books help a person understand the last work of Imam Ibn Hisham that I wanted to share. This is Mūṣil al-Ṭullāb ila Qawa'id al-I'rāb of Imam Khalid al-Azhari. It's his sharh on al-I'rāb. Is it al-I'rāb fi Qawa'id al-I'rāb? Anyway, this is Qawa'id al-I'rāb is the book of Ibn Hisham al-Ansari, and it talks about how to do i'rāb and details in that regard. So Mūṣil al-Ṭullāb is a very simple commentary on it. It's not extensive, and the book Qawa'id al-I'rāb is not extensive either, but it's an excellent book to get a person to grasp i'rāb and how it works. Another sharh of the same book, Sharḥ Qawa'id al-I'rāb of al-Imam al-Kafiyaji, Muhyiddin al-Kafiyaji. And correct me if I'm wrong, he is named Kafiyaji because he loved Kafiya so much. The book Kafiya in Nahw, he loved it so much, of al-Imam Ibn al-Hajib, that they named him al-Kafiyaji. So this is a more extensive sharh. So this could be read in tandem with Mūṣil al-Ṭullāb. Mūṣil al-Ṭullāb is pretty much just shares the matan, like what's happening in the matan. That's pretty much it. And this one goes into much more depth and detail into i'rāb and the principles in that regard. And those 2 books kind of prep you for the final book, which is Mughnī al-Labīb of al-Imam Ibn Hisham al-Ansari, considered like a takhassus and specialization level book in Nahw. There are, of course, the other works of Imam al-Suyuti, Ham'ul Hawami' and things like that. And I think at-Tasheel of Imam Ibn Malik, you guys perhaps know better. But this is where kind of I wanted to stop. Like I want to go into this. And as you can see here, the tahqiq of Sheikh Muhammad Muhyiddin Abdul Hamid. But it's not his hawashi. I don't see any hawashi in this kitab. It's just the tahqiq of the kitab. So he just brought forth the kitab of Ibn Hisham. He didn't add anything in the footnotes. In this edition I have of Dar ibn Kathir. There are better editions, but this is a very clear, legible edition that I bought a long time ago. Sometimes I buy lots of books for potential reads in the distant future, which is, I think, great. If it gets sold out, then you can't get it anymore. So this is my potential, thing that I wanted to pursue. Allah knows best if I will be able to do so. The tawfiq is only in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And my goal here is just to really understand Nahw to a degree where I feel comfortable with the subject. I know the details of the subject. I can do i'rāb in a way that I can personally understand the Nahw of Quran and the depths of Quran. And this is what is necessary. Some people might feel like, okay, there's so many kitabs just to understand Quran. Yeah, there is. Right? You need to develop the alat to such a degree that you can understand Quran and Sunnah. And this is the khitta. This is what the ulama have done in the past. And this is what we need to do in order for us to, inshallah, of course, we cannot fill those shoes, but to even like compete or to even be, I'm using the wrong words here. We can't compete with the ulama in the past, but even to just grasp what they wrote and what they understood, just a little bit of that. We kind of have to follow this khitta. That's my opinion. Of course, you can learn Nahw in Arabic with much less, but if you really love Nahw, you want to get deep into it, you can study these books. Now, I am aware there's a different methodology. This is kind of the tariq of Ibn Hisham and how that style goes. There's also the tariq of Kafiya, where you go study Kafiya and the various shuruh of Kafiya, that of Mulla Jami, and then I've heard of a book, Mullah Abdul Ghafoor, and then I don't know if this is the same with Ustarabadi, so I have Ustarabadi's work here. And I also read in another book of, I think, Sheikh Fadil Samura'i. He said if there was one book that he recommends, or his sheikh said this, I have to check again, the naql and the quote, if there's one book that he recommends in Nahw, it is a Sharḥ of, I think it's called Radiyuddin al-Ustarabadi. I have the kitab here, 2 volumes. This is a commentary on Kafiya. As you can tell, I have not read the book, but if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives me tawfiq, the first step is admitting that you don't know, and then procuring the books and being able to study those books, and then having the time and then actually going for it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give me tawfiq. I hope that you benefited from this video. If you have, please leave a comment regarding your journey in Nahw, where you're at, any advices you may have for someone on this journey. Also, if this content is beneficial for you and you haven't already, please consider subscribing. That would mean a lot to me. Jazakumullahu khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.